Oh man, this is not easy. No, Hey there, it's Teddy coming to you from down in my record room with my top 10 favorite releases from 2018. These can be new releases, reissues, or some variation in between. It was quite a good year for releases of music that I'm particularly interested in. There could always be more, but hey, this is the first year that there was enough that I could cull together a top 10 as difficult as that became. I'm more than happy and willing and very interested in supporting the labels and the artists that will take the plunge and go ahead and press vinyl along with their other delivery methods. So thumbs up to those of you who do, and thank you very, very much. I appreciate it greatly. The rules of the road for this video are I'm going to try to be brief, as many of these have been shown before both by myself and other people, so they're not going to be completely new to you. I'm going to forego needle drops as well until I get to the end and my number one favorite top dog album of the year. So let's get to it. Well, kicking things off is the album that resonated the most with me out of this year's London jazz scene. The group is called Misha. The album is called There Is a Place, and it's on the Brownswood Recordings label out of London, a label that was founded by the legendary DJ and crate digger Giles Peterson. The group is a sextet that lives in the so-called spiritual jazz realm. Pharoah Sanders and Alice Coltrane are clear jumping off points here, but they stretch it out further. There are some definite world vibes, Afrobeat elements. I even sense a little bit of Gato Barbieri at play. So, as I said, they do move things out further away from the strict spiritual jazz area. They also incorporate some cool string arrangements on some of the cuts, so that takes it away from the club gig vibe and into a more lush textural space, which is quite cool. In that spiritual jazz realm, I find this album to be more on the joyous side of things than the introspective side of things. There's just a very cool, relaxed vibe, very up vibe, and I dig it a lot. So yeah, Misha, There Is a Place, from Brownswood Recordings. There's number 10. Well, next up is an incredible archaeological find. The Lost and Found session from 1963 from John Coltrane and his classic quartet. Both directions at once on Impulse. This is the double deluxe edition with all of the takes. I mean, let's face it, they could find Coltrane performing nursery rhymes, and I'd jump on it. So it's Coltrane. Enough said. Moving on to singer-songwriter Amy Rigby and her release, The Old Guys, on Southern Domestic Records. This is some good old dirtied up, jangly, psychish Americana, sort of. Amy Rigby, creator of the legendary Diary of a Mod Housewife back in 1996. She is extremely witty She's extremely sarcastic, and she is pushing 60, so look the hell out. This was created along with her hubby, Reckless Eric, of early Stiff Records fame. And clearly, Amy Rigby's punkish embers are still burning, and her middle finger is working rather well. This album is funny, it's poignant. The title cut, The Old Guys, is Amy Rigby's homage to artists that came before her, and as she said, laid the track for her to jump on. And she realizes that now she is one of the old guys. I'm not sure how some of the themes and references will resonate with the under 50 crowd, but if you've been around the block a few times, if you've worn a little tread off your tire, and you're not quite ready to be put out to pasture, then this might be a very, very good fit for you. Amy Rigby's The Old Guys from Southern Domestic Records. Well, speaking of The Old Guys, an album that I showed earlier this year, Uncharted Territories. It's a journey into free improvisation featuring a couple of legendary British oldies, Dave Holland on bass and Evan Parker on tenor sax, and they're joined by Craig Taborn on keys and Chess Smith on percussion. It's a triple album on Dave Holland's Dare 2 Records label. It's a session recorded in a couple of days that breaks out into every conceivable combination of duet, of trio, and of course quartet. This session, I would say, is a simmering free improv that occasionally rises up into a boil, but it is just masterful. The intuitive ease that these guys communicate amongst each other is amazing. Uncharted Territories on Dave Holland's Dare 2 Records. Oh yes, a 50th anniversary release of alternate takes from the 1968 primal assault free jazz giant Machine Gun from the Peter Brutzmann Octet. This came out on the Austrian Cienfuegos label. They also reissued the primary album, so it's great to have these in circulation. This is two sidelong alternates, take 2 of Machine Gun and take 1 of Responsible. And this is like a hurricane trapped inside an atom bomb. It's music of such magnitude, of such force that in short order it will totally vaporize your brain, leaving behind just an empty, echoey shell of a skull. It's that intense. Americans at the time had only gotten so far with their so-called fire music. They never attained the level of abrasiveness and visceral experience that Brutzmann and his European cohorts conjured up here with Machine Gun. It's an album that some will easily dismiss, and I get it, but for me it's part of a Core 100 LP jazz collection. It's that important. And I'm so glad that Cienfuegos saw fit to issue these alternate takes for the first time on vinyl. So very, very cool. Peter Brutzmann's Octet, Machine Gun, alternate takes on Cienfuegos. Yahoo! Well, here we have More Blood on the Tracks from Bob Dylan. It's volume 14 of the Bootleg series from Columbia Records. Now, back in 1975, I was a senior in high school, And Blood on the Tracks was an immensely anticipated album. And the day it was released in January, I rushed out, I got my copy, and it's one of those rare instances where the reality outweighs the anticipation. I was blown away, my friends were blown away. I mean, just about everyone was blown away. It's a masterpiece that's grown in stature over time, and hearing these early minimal takes makes it very clear to me how well crafted these songs are at their core and how well they hold up under any variation. Just amazing. It was an amazing period, creative period for one Mr. Dylan. But what's not quite as amazing is how Columbia chose to deal with the packaging, at least of the vinyl portion. I understand the 6 CDs is a little different, but it kind of starts with this somewhat tacky album cover design. But the real crime is here, where they stuffed 2 discs and a booklet into a single flimsy album sleeve. Now, come on, Columbia, you can do better than that. This artist and this particular album, the material from the album, deserve better than this. So maybe next time, but no matter how you wrap it, what's contained within is truly masterful work, and it deserves attention for sure. More Blood on the Tracks from Bob Dylan, Volume 14 from the Bootleg series from Columbia Records. Well, next up is an album that I've shown previously. It's from the Firehouse 12, folks. It's a double album cut down from an extremely audacious, nearly 4-hour, 4-part piece from the drummer, composer, and conductor Tyshawn Sorey. As you can see, it's called Pillars. It is a dark piece, it's a mysterious piece, and it is utterly uncategorizable. Tyshawn Sorey has created a very compelling sound art language that I just can't turn away from, and I can't find myself to file it away on the shelf. It really has gotten a hold of me. It's a piece for the conceptually curious, and it's a piece for the supremely patient. But in the end, it pays off, I feel, and I feel it pays off big. Tyshawn Sorey, Pillars, from Firehouse 12. So take one of my all-time favorite artists of any genre and reverentially remaster, repress, repackage with unissued takes and an incredible booklet. This is reissuing done right. It's Eric Dolphy, Musical Prophet from Resonance Records. It was a Black Friday Record Store Day release. It is a triple album that is comprised of 1963 sessions in New York for the Douglas label that resulted in Eric Dolphy's albums Iron Man and Conversations. Eric Dolphy is one of the most individualistic and recognizable voices in music that's ever been created. Whether he's on alto sax, bass clarinet, or flute, you know him when you hear him. He just kicks the door open, grabs you by the throat, and does his thing. It's unbelievable. It's pure brilliance. Now, I have to admit, I am not a Record Store Day participant, but there are some stores that will list their unsold stock the next day, and they will list them at the normal price. They will oftentimes offer shipping deals if you achieve a certain dollar amount. So Win-win for me. Yep, here you are. I didn't have to stand in line. I didn't have to elbow my way through things. I didn't have to pay sales tax. I just had to be patient and wait for it to show up. And I am so glad I did. Eric Dolphy, Musical Prophet on Resonance Records. Incredible. Well, until a few weeks ago, I considered this to be my record of the year, and I suppose in reality it should be a co-record of the year. It is Echo Painting by the Vancouver cellist, composer, and bandleader Peggy Lee. It's on Songlines. It was a commissioned piece of work that she created for an octet of like-minded and very fluid musicians who helped her realize her delicious blend of musical styles and references that she puts all of it through a very unabashed melodic filter. It's great stuff. And this does something that I love as well as the last album, and that is just utilizes just surprising twists and turns, both compositionally and within the album itself. They're not afraid of being inside or outside, and they use both bits of both to their great advantage. And this is a classic example of that. Echo Painting from Peggy Lee on Songlines. Okay, this one snuck in under the wire as it was released late in the year by the Firehouse 12 folks again. It's Myra Melford's Snowy Egret. The album's called The Other Side of Air. It's a double album, and it is rather great. And it is from one of the most flexible and gifted pianists working today. Myra Melford slots in with some of my favorite pianists like Jackie Byard and Dave Burrell, ones who could dive in and out of any aspect of jazz history and make it their own. Now, compositionally, Myra Melford exhibits that same flexibility, as she can often go from achingly beautiful to beautifully angular, often within the same tune. Her music is in constant motion, and I can close my eyes and I can imagine a modern dancer just moving to this music. It's just got that feel, and to pull this off, it really requires a very stout group of avant-garde-ish stalwarts to deal with the compositional intricacies, the turns on a dime, and the improvisational space that Myra Melford provides for them. Besides Myra Melford on piano, you have Ron Miles on cornet, just a beautifully lyrical player who, when he decides to go out, he has a tendency to get kind of wobbly and drunk sounding. It's fantastic. You have Liberty Ellman on guitar, an incredibly clean player who can take the most complex compositional punch and deal with it, and then also conjure up some incredibly cool stuff out of thin air. He is a guitarist of choice for Henry Threadgill, if that gives you any indication. Stomu Takaishi is the bass player, and he really deals with some textural feel, some atmospheric sense of playing bass, and I really have to stop and pay attention at times to what he's doing, because there's some really cool and different stuff happening back there. The drummer, well, it's that guy from earlier again, Tyshawn Sorey, but this time he is in constant motion and kind of living in a percussive world somewhere between like Jack DeJohnette and Sonny Murray. Just very, very good. But more than anything, this group is just tight as hell. No matter what they're dealing with, no matter the the compositional interpretations or the improvisational sojourns, they are just tight as all get out. So let me step back. So I'm going to play like 3 pieces within one song, so you can hear how things change within a number and just give you a feel for it, because it's just super cool stuff. So yeah, here we go. So cool. I mean, this only gives you a tiny snippet of what's going on. I do urge you to head over to Bandcamp, and you can listen to the whole thing and decide for yourself if it's something you'd like to dive into as well. But man, I'm going to be diving in more and more into this album. I mean, it's still fairly fresh, but it's a standout for sure. Myra Melford's Snowy Egret, The Other Side of Air, from Firehouse 12 Records. And that wraps up my 10 favorite releases from 2018. And I'm very much looking forward to turning the page to 2019 for lots and lots of reasons. And thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for subscribing. And Happy New Year.